Hello, today I'm going to talk about diversity and difference. In other words, managing conflict in a transdisciplinary network. Conflict is often viewed as a negative aspect of reality, yet it exists everywhere. There is evidence of our inability to see conflict and that conflict is normal, yet it is. Positive and active conflict is essentially diversity being worked out amongst human beings. We all have different ideas, different values, different ways of viewing things. So it's almost natural that conflict is going to occur. So it's better to embrace conflict but we don't like conflict. It's just natural that we don't. There's many problems arise when conflict occurs that keeps the conflict going, is that we're fearful of addressing it because we may hurt someone's feelings. We may avoid it because we don't know how to deal with it, or we think that somebody doesn't like us, or we just ignore it and see if it just kind of takes care of itself. So that's natural, but it's not the effective way to deal with conflict. Leaders should treat conflict as a tool for good leadership. 90% of leadership is addressing human behavior issues such as conflict. Conflict management considers that people differ in a variety of ways. And it is individual to every situation that causes conflict. Trying to create conditions in which conflict is completely absent is pointless. It's never going to happen. Conflict is going to occur. It's just, how do we deal with it as a leader? So a leader should devote themselves to managing conflict that include open communication, know what the organizational and professional work goals are, manage conflict in a productive manner, and address conflict early. When the leader knows that it has occurred, using that old phrase, nip it in the bud, deal with it. Conflict is primarily about behavior. Something has occurred and the conflict results in a behavior. It's not about people. It's their reaction to something that caused the conflict. So if a concept is to be resolved, both parties have to own up to their feelings and how to resolve the conflict. And the leader must ensure parties own their feelings and do not cast them on the shoulders of others. Leaders should not interpret about the conflict, but help people confirm that their interpretation is correct. It's best when the leader is addressing the conflict is to remain as neutral as possible. The leader should keep the focus on the dialogue and away from the feelings, because we can't change feelings, but we can understand what happened and go from there. So the leader has to ensure that whatever occurred has to be clearly stated so that everybody can understand what happened. And then the leader must also recognize what is situational factors and what are cultural factors. Cultural factors of the individual is something that will not change, but the situation can change. So everybody has a different personality. We're different in every way. And so the conflict is going to occur differently each and every time. So the leader should always be on lookout for conflict and again, resolve it as quickly as possible. Things that might create conflict is something that a person or individual feels that there's been unfair or inequitable treatment of them. They did not receive information that was necessary for their work. There's game playing among certain individuals, possibly trying to better up somebody. There's a lack of everyone's understanding of one's uniqueness. Somebody has a hidden agenda about something. There's a lack of mutual appreciation. You can see there's just so many potential issues where conflict can occur. So this is what I'm talking about when I talked about cultural factors. We know that conflict is exhibited by a behavior. And you can see that was the tip of the iceberg. That was what sunk the Titanic. But underneath all of this is the individual's worldview, how they perceive the world, what their beliefs and values are. So the person has all of these things underneath that the conflict interfered with their values, their beliefs, or worldview, and then they exhibited this behavior that resulted in conflict. One of the things that occur that, again, the leader has to make sure does not occur is blame. That's the reason why it's so important for the leader to recognize that feelings cannot necessarily change, but the situation can change. Blame doesn't help anybody. So keep the discussion away from blame and keep it on the situation, because again, blame is never of value. The leader has to build trust, and the best way to do that is to communicate, because everyone has selective memory about what occurred in the past. We all remember it differently. Remember how there's always been those situations where people have viewed accidents, and there's almost as many views of the accident that occurred as there are the people that are reporting the accident. So make sure that the negativity is gone and each party has the desire to resolve the underlying issues. I was looking at a video about resolving conflict, and the speaker was talking about how she and her husband was seeking marriage counseling. And the marriage counselor voiced, do you want to make your marriage work? And she spoke up and said, no. And so they both recognized, all parties recognized that marriage counselor wasn't going to be effective because they didn't want the change to occur. So she ultimately, they left the marriage counselor's office, and the marriage dissolved into a divorce. So each party has to be willing to resolve the issue. So that's all that I need to talk to you about it. It's just that conflict is normal. And we need to understand that it is going to occur, and we need to remain neutral, communicate, and build trust. And that's going to be the best solution for resolving conflict. I hope you learned something today, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.